Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Harebrained Games. Today we're going to talk to you about a game that just came out in 2018, very early on, because it's still very early on in 2018, called Dinosaur Island. Dinosaur Island is a game from 1 to 4 players, where you are charged with creating the best dinosaur park that nature can tolerate. You'll do this by playing rounds, and each round has a series of 4 phases, and in those phases you will introduce new dinosaur types, you will build attractions, and ultimately you will introduce your park to spectators who will be entertained and hopefully not eaten. You'll face dinosaurs that you'll put in your park, such as the mild-mannered Brontosaurus, the ill-mannered Velociraptor, the apathetic Stegosaurus, and of course my favorite, the feared and greatly revered Thesaurus. Yes. Anyway, when enough common objectives have been completed by players, the game ends and victory points are scored. So, let's get into the components of the game and show you a little bit about it. Okay, here's a little bit of a components breakdown. You will find, first off, we'll go through the central areas. You have your scoring board. You have your phase 1 and phase 2, which are common phases that you'll deal with everyone together. You have different paddocks where you're going to store upgrade to be able to store more dinosaurs in your park. You have the dinosaurs templates, the recipes that you can use for phase 1. And you have here, we have upgrades to your park, which we'll show in a second. These attractions and laboratory upgrades and specialists who will help add additional workers, and they'll also give you special abilities. We have the bag of patrons. Some are patrons, and the purple ones are hooligans. Hooligans are not your friend, because they're hooligans. We have DNA dice, which are used in phase 1. These will basically let you build up your DNA, but none of that makes sense until you look at the player board. And here you're going to look at, this is the DNA tracks, where you're going to have common DNA and custom DNA, or specialized DNA. You have your laboratory area here, where you'll be able to place your workers in phase 3 to be able to do certain actions to help build up your park. And then of course you've got the threat level, because as you add dinosaurs you're going to need security to keep up with the threat level. Very interesting stuff. We also have these chits, which are your scientists, which are going to be used in phase 1. And these extra tokens that you'll accrue over time, or you'll be able to get more of these over time as you add workers, add specialists, which add workers. You actually start with 4. There we go. We have money, because everybody needs money, even dinosaur parks. We have cute little pink dinosaurs. Yeah. And of course, the extra run over on that. And finally, we have the actual park board. Each player is going to receive not only this phase 3 board, Gil, and we're going to have phase 4. This is where you're actually going to place attractions, and you're going to replace the DNA templates so that you can add dinosaurs into your park. And ultimately, this is where you're going to score. This is where your patrons visit. This is where you set up shop and put everything. This is really the end of each phase. You will earn points based on how you've arranged things and how well things have worked out for you here on this board. Finally, we have the Ubiquitous Rulebook. Generally, well, the font was a little weird, but ultimately, lots of text, but everything's detailed. Very good examples. The words are good. I didn't find anything too egregious. Everything's set up, makes sense. It looks a lot more daunting than it actually winds up being. The examples themselves are very, very good. So, yay, points for those. And for those who are playing solo, and I will be giving an example of the solo play, this solo variant allows a single player to play by themselves using this solo deck here in almost an automata style fashion. So that's it. We're going to go ahead and get into an example of gameplay, and I will be playing the solo variant. Those of you who are familiar with Board Game Geek will know that there are a variety of different reviews and gameplays that show multiplayer, and I'll touch on that a little bit, but in general I will be setting up to play the solo version to give you an example of how the game plays out. We're going to set up the first part of gameplay here. We're going to start with over here with phase one. I need to actually set up, I've set up my board the way it needs to be. Oh, I haven't, because there's no threat yet. That's right. Well, there is, but then I have one dinosaur. Everybody gets a dinosaur to start with in this basic little world, which means I get one excitement point. And excitement points are stored on the excitement track here. And they start with 10 victory points. Very nice of them to actually show the starting conditions too. Apologies again for the glare. Let's move that out of the way. Alright, so the other things we need to do, and we'll just go in order by phase overs. We flip the tile over to show which of the recipes we're going to be able to have at our disposal to start off with. We have the Pachycephalosaurus, the Pteranodon, ooh, hi Pteranodon, and the Allosaurus, and the allegorical dinosaur. Alright, so that's it for phase one. Here, we're going to lay out the board in such a fashion. Actually, first thing, we roll the DNA dice. DNA dice are what help us grab more DNA in our little venues. And we're going to place them as they are onto these just above here in whatever order. We're just going to place them. Alright, and there we go. That's that. More setup. We flip 4 of these suckers over, and we place them in the $2 spot, $3 spot, $4 spot, $5 spot. We do the same thing with our attractions, except for starting round 1, we're going to organize them by price. So the most expensive goes here, and the least expensive, and they're equal, so there's $3, $3, and $7. Finally, we place 4 specialists out, 1 by 1. There we go. You're almost ready. We are almost ready. Alright, so phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 is here. We set everything up to its defaults. So once again, they nicely set up so that the actual darkened spots are where you actually start off with for certain things, which is really nice. Your 4 workers, my 3 scientists, these are all going to get used right away. Alright, and because we have 1 dinosaur in our park to start with, that's going to give us 1 threat level. So threat level's 1, security level's 1. And finally, we're going to take and set this up. Now this one, we take 10 of these and cards, and we get to pick 7 objectives. 7 of these. I'm just going to do this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, look, 7. And that's going to leave 9 of these, which are going to be used for the AI deck. So we're going to have the 7 objectives that we need to complete, or we'll get points for completing. This is just for solo play. So we're going to set these out. I won't bore you with that, but, well, maybe I will. Maybe I will bore you with that. There we go. 6 and 7. So, move that over a little bit. As you can tell, space is kind of a premium here with this game. It definitely takes a lot of table space, which is only an egregious problem if you don't like the game. Otherwise, you find room. Alright. And we're ready to go. Now we're going to actually get into a gameplay and actually show you the game as it's played out. Alright, so we now have set up the board in its game state, and we're going to begin play. I'm giving you a bird's eye view to help with the whole overall picture as we build up and extend our Dinosaur Island park. First off, phase 1. Everything is phase 1 right here. This is really, everything narrows down and we zoom in here and we're going to play this out. Now on your turn, there's a couple things we do. First off, sorry, put those back. We have our objectives here, various ones, such as earn $8 from patrons in a single round, such as assign only 1 research scientist this round, etc., etc. Reach a threat level of 15. Holy smokes. The other thing we didn't do that we need to do is plot twist. 2 plot twists. Each player may only hire one specialist during the game. Ouch. I don't like that one. I'm actually gonna... There are no hooligans in the game. You know what? We're not gonna do those, because why don't we just show you the core game in its purism. There is a variant that says don't play with plot twists if they might confuse things. For now, just understand that at the start of any game, 2 of these are available, and they do change the game, each session of the game, in some interesting ways, some of which are constricting, some are not. Like, each player starts the game with 5 workers instead of 4, etc., etc. We're going to set those aside for now and not play with that. So, at the start of a solo game, the first thing you do is take a solo card. There were these 7 objectives, but there's these 9, or these additional cards from the solo. The unused objectives are going to have the bottom part be used to decide how we're going to change the game state each round, so that the solo player has some sort of competition, isn't able to just do whatever they want, however they want. In this case, we're going to look at the bottom and it says remove dice 3 and 4. Can't use those. Remove the dinosaur from slot 1. No! Remove the upgrade from the $3 slot. So that one's gone. And then finally, remove the specialist from the $3 slot. So those that were once available are no longer available. And that's that. We'll just set that aside there. Now we begin with phase 1. I have 3 workers, and I don't have to compete with anybody. In a multiplayer game, we would all take turns using our scientists in phase 1 to do whatever we wanted. Do we want a dino recipe? Do we want to take one of these and put it into our park? Do we want to like build up some DNA? Because we're going to have to pay certain amounts to be able to bring dinosaurs into our park. Do we want to increase our cold storage? Right now we're capped. We're capped at 4 for the common and 2 for the advanced DNA strands. So do we want to do that, or do we want to pass? If you pass, you use one of your scientists so that you can make another one of your scientist tokens be an extra worker. It's probably a little inefficient, but it's there if you need it. So we're going to use our tokens, and this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to use this. 2 means I can, this is 3. This is pretty powerful. It's like 3 common DNA. 3 times 2 is 6. So I can adjust the DNA that much, which is kind of a nice little initial boon. If you're playing multiplayer, that might be one you'd go for first to make sure you get it, and your opponents do not. Second, I can't do anything here. That herbivore is gone, so what can I do? Well, I can do this, and there's a reason for why I'm picking this one, and beef up this strand of DNA. It's inefficient, but there's a reason why I would choose this anyway, because I'm already capped. This would give me an extra one of these basic DNA strands, but it's already capped. I can't move it forward. So why would I do such a silly thing? It will make sense shortly. Finally, I'm going to go ahead and use my number 3 scientist, because I have to get the Allosaurus. The Allosaurus has an excitement level of 3. It's where each dinosaur gives you 7 victory points at the end, and it's got a threat level of 2 for every dinosaur you put in there. And notice that it's going to take 5 DNA strands, 5 DNA samples in order to create each dinosaur. Now how does that work? Well, these 2 are common, and I got plenty of those, but I need 1 of each of the uncommon, which I'm not prepared to build yet. Whether this is a smart move, I don't know. I'm just giving an example. But in general, that's what I got to work with. And that's it. That's really all that you do in phase 1, is you deal specifically with this board, you lay out your scientists and try and position yourself to be able to extend your park, the dinosaur portion of your park. And there we go. And that's the end of phase 1. Now we're going to go to phase 2. So shifting gears. But first, why did I do this? I actually take the unused die and I place it here because that's going to up my threat level for this round by a certain amount. So right now I am behind the 8 ball because this has a threat level of 2. I have to add my threat level of 2 to that 1. My threat level is 3. My security level is 1. which means that I'm not going to do well unless I find a way to increase my security level to match it. That's why I put the 1 here, because this is threat level of 3, which would make it even worse. In this case, while I didn't get the advantage of the DNA, at least I kept that dice from becoming a threat level that would cause me pain later in the later phases. Now it's phase 2, so we're going to switch over to here. I have my store, my market, which the solo variant has ungraciously taken certain options away from me, but that still gives me 2 choices. I get to take turns. I get to make 2 actions here. 2 actions indeed. And so the one thing I could do is, because this is all about building up sort of the area of workers and security. It's building up for the worker phase. You're prepping. We prepped for the dinosaur phase, things that we want to do with the dinosaurs. Now we're going to prep up for things we want to do with our workers here. Our 4 workers. Hello, buddies. First thing I want to do is I'm going to spend 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to spend $3. Oh, where's my money? I should have started with money. Always start with money. Always. General rule of life. I'm going to spend $3, which will give me 2 back. Yes, I can count. And I'm going to build myself a lab manager. Once per round, increase your cold storage limits by 1 for a single DNA type. Now that's pretty powerful. I like that. We can have up to 3 of these guys without special advantages. But we also get another worker. Yay! So that's one of the things we can do. Now the second thing we can do is, and this is easy, this is a no-brainer, I'm going to spend 2 to upgrade my lab with this. This means, this says that I can use a worker to decrease the cost of increasing my security, which I'm going to need to do, because I don't want to lose victory points because my patrons are getting eaten. And that's it. That's the end of phase 2. Every player in multiplayer game, everyone goes around and they pick until everyone does 2 actions, but you're spending your money, and this is really one of the only, well, this isn't the only place to spend money, but it's the first place to spend money in each round, to buy additional things to help upgrade and beef up. I could have bought one of these, and, you know, like these attractions, which aren't dinosaurs, but they do help fill out your park, and that would have given me an extra place to put a worker, which gives me victory points. The roller coaster, crazy roller coaster, which not only gives me a victory point, it also lets me put up to three patrons on it. And these 3 patrons would add victory points to me each round. Noticing that the cost would be great, because the cost is not just what's written here, it's what's written here and what's over here in the column that it's in. So 9 plus 5. So it would cost me $14 to do a first aid station. Probably not going to do that. Cost me $11 to put this roller coaster, which might have been a good idea, but I want to try and build up my dinosaur park first. But that's the end of phase 2, and now we go to phase 3, and that's where we focus specifically on this. This is where we're going to take our workers and we're going to do actions on in our park with whatever we've got here as for workers that we are capable of doing. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this here, and it says that I can upgrade the capacity or increase security level by 1 at a discount of -2. So guess what? It's going to cost me nothing. Wait a minute. I wonder if there's a minimum. I never really ran into that. Huh. Alright. I'm going to assume it costs at least minimum of 1, but yeah, minimum of 1. So I'm going to say that it costs me 2 coins to upgrade to level 3 security. Why am I happy about that? Because and I have to, each time I do it, I have to upgrade. Yeah, this is where it's weird. So I'm using this to get the discount, but each time I want to increase my security level, I have to use the tool bench. Now, this is one of the rare places where you can put as many of these workers as you want to do this. Now, right now, I've increased my security. What it means is someone's not going to get eaten, but I don't have a lot going on here. I don't have this, dinosaur isn't ready. I'm not ready yet to be able to build a dinosaur. I could get money. I just can't create a dinosaur. But I can use this to refine DNA. And that means at one time, for this one, I can choose any combination of these uncommon things, like say this and this, and that gives me an advanced DNA. So I've got some room to move. So as I maneuver these, I'm going to try to get positioned so that I can finally build this Allosaurus, probably in a subsequent round. Actually, definitely in a subsequent round. Finally, I have one worker left that I haven't deployed, and so I'm going to use him to collect money. I get $3. And that's it. I have just allocated my workers to for the round, and that's great. So I'm happy so far, although I'm not happy I didn't get to make a dinosaur. But now we're going to go to phase 4. Phase 4 is all about bringing visitors in. So you look at the excitement level, and my excitement level is really sad. It's level 1. 1. I've got one guy visiting my park. That is so sad. Thankfully, he's not a hooligan, because then I wouldn't get any points for him. Hooligans just, they don't give you money, they don't give you victory points, they just clog up the world. And they don't get eaten first, too. They're sneaky little guys. So, my lousy one excitement, okay. So, do this, and I get a coin for each person coming in, because they got to pay the entrance fee. Then, I allocate them however I wish. In one dinosaur for each dinosaur. As I upgrade to add more dinosaurs, I can have more visitors come looking at the dinosaurs. And so right now I've got one dinosaur, which means I have one slot. Had I additional excitement, if the excitement had brought more people in, I could have filled out this spot, and if I had a dinosaur at this spot, you're filling it out. And then once it's filled out, you get a victory point for, well, first off, then you check the security level. Security level is 2, plus 1 is 3. My threat level is 3. My security level is 3. I'm fine. Nobody dies this turn. However, I don't get many victory points either. I get one lousy victory point. Sadness. Alright. And so that goes back in the bag. Man, and that's the end of the round, and then we do cleanup. And cleanup is, well, first off, we check and see, did we complete any objectives? We didn't complete any objectives. I am not doing well at this. Yeah, so I'm at this point. I'm not going to get the maximum bonuses, but that's okay. So I have to discard one of these. I don't know which one I'm going to discard. Probably that one, because I don't think I'm going to reach a security level of 12. So that gets discarded. And then go to round 2. In this one, we're going to flip over. We reset. We bring our workers back, or our scientists back. We bring our workers back. All of our workers go back up to the logo. Yay. Everything else stays. We're fine. The top number 2, the wimpiest of the cost ones, and everything slides up, so it becomes cheaper. So you're going to get a little bit of a discount. Everything slides up as high as it can go, and then once again we drop these suckers down, these upgrades, attractions, and there you go. All right, and we are ready to start round 2. Once we roll these dice, move our mice. All right, you just put them in slots. You don't know. All right, so that's it. So we are ready to start the next round, and we're going to continue on this way for 7 rounds in the single solo play. In the multiplayer, there's a certain amount of objectives. When you complete all but the last one of the objectives, when anybody playing as a group are able to get all the objectives up till the last one completed, then the game is over, and victory points are accrued at the end of that round. As an example, I'm just going to show you, but say for example that it was, you know, we've got your phase 1 stuff going on, you've got your phase 2 stuff. That's pretty simple. You're buying stuff. If you are in a position where you're like, hey, I want to create a dinosaur, then you would look at the cost of each of these, and I'm just doing this for example. And you pay all of that, and then you get to take a dinosaur, you get to slap it in there in the paddock, and you'll get an extra 3 excitement. 1, 2, 3. but you increase your threat level by 2. So that's how that goes. In a case, another example would be if I want to upgrade a paddock and I want to basically say, you know what, I want 2 of these dinosaurs, and if I can afford them and I get 2 dinosaurs, well, shoot, look at that. Not only do I, you up your excitement level for each one, once again, 1, 2, 3, and then your threat level gets higher, and you're going to have to come up and match up that threat level by finding a security level that's just as high, and it goes on and on. At the end of the game, you're going to get 7 times 2 is 14 points for these dinosaurs, plus 1 is 15 points. And so that's going to be valuable to you for being able to jump. Matter of fact, in some of the games I played, I had very few dinosaurs, far less than I thought, and I even lost points because I had an empty dinosaur cage, which is always worth negative points, because who wants to see an empty dinosaur cage? But I ended up beating by 1 point someone who had 7 or 8 dinosaurs, but they were in the 2 victory point range. So, and that's basically a panorama of the gameplay of Dinosaur Island. You'll notice that it's very easy to just go from phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, seamless, and smooth. So anyway, that's Dinosaur Island in the solo variant. Now let's get to my final thoughts and see if this game is worth it or if it should be sent to the wolves. Were there wolves with dinosaurs? One will never know. Alright, welcome back for my final thoughts on Dinosaur Island. You've had a little taste of a playthrough. I admit that as the solo play goes, the experience of 2, 3, 4 players jockeying for portions of the things available to buy or research wouldn't necessarily be as pronounced in this video as it would be in others, and I do encourage folks to please take a look at the wealth of online YouTube videos on Dinosaur Island if you want to see an example of 2, 3, 4 player games. For my thoughts, we'll go over the cons first, the things I don't like about the game. Definitely my first con would be the art style. It's quirky, kind of like 80s Grand Theft Auto, Vice City, Crockett and Tubbs, pink parachute pants kind of vibe, is definitely unique and different than one would look at when I say, hey, here's a game about building your own dinosaur park. Maybe the park part. But that was something that I thought the homage to that sort of style was a tad bit jarring. The other thing is I don't know that you'll really get much value out of playing the short game. As you know, the objectives are short, medium, and long, and to really get the most out of this game, you probably want to play medium or long. The short game just seems to just disappear quickly. And honestly, that's a good thing. I mean, if you finish the short game and you're like, I'm done, well, you knew things didn't go right. In this case, I think the short game is good for just teaching, or beginning, or just even learning, but definitely, even in solo play, I'd want to play the medium or the long game to get the most out of it, because there's a lot to see and do and buy and research, and it's well worth your time during a game to take advantage of that. That's it for the cons. Now, the pros. What do I like about it? Well, I definitely like the art style. Say what? Yeah, I know, I listed it as a con, because that was my initial thought, and that is still the initial kind of vibe I got from it. The odd thing is that as it wasn't even through the first game before I really became a little more attuned to it, to the point that I now think it's actually beneficial. I actually think it's a lot better of a style than I originally thought. I mean, you know, by game 2, 3, and 4, I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just, it all flows and meshes. It's not incongruent with anywhere. All the pieces line up and match up and feel very neon park, and it definitely tends towards the park style, like not this dinosaur thing. I think part of it's because after not having many dinosaur games over the years, I've seen Escape from 100 Million BC, The Great Dinosaur Rush, Raptor, Timeline Dinosaurs, and all of these have different art styles. Some are dark, like really cutesy, and some are like more gritty. And I think for each of those games, the art style made sense. This one, it definitely now makes sense to me. It definitely feels good. It tackles the balance between too cutesy and the like, hey, like you made a park and dinosaurs are eating people in it, in this sort of like, you know, macabre kind of thing, and I think it actually meshes it well. So while my con was the art style, my pro is now that the art style is absolutely spot on for this. Because honestly, who's going to complain You know, as far as like, hey, I feel uncomfortable, who's going to complain about a pink dinosaur chowing down on a bright yellow person? Not me. The other thing I like is the zoom in approach. This isn't a con of the game. It just happens to be that when you lay all the pieces out and you invite someone to the table that's not like, hey, I'm avid board gamer, they're gonna look overwhelmed. They're gonna look like, I didn't come here to fly a 747. And this is one of the things, and I really like this. This isn't the first game to do it, but it's definitely a great way to approach it. It's the same thing Enemy Coast Ahead did with their series Dam Busters and the Doolittle Raid, where you have this huge gargantuan set of things around you, but you zoom in and you have focal points sequentially through each part of the game so that everything is just like, don't worry about everything. Focus on phase 1 and it'll make perfect sense. Okay, set that aside. Focus on phase 2, makes sense. Focus on phase 3, phase 4. And I mean, it doesn't even take all the way through the first turn before people are like, oh, I get this. This isn't nearly as complicated as it might have looked. And that's what I like about it. I like that it really does an excellent job of sequentially, like bringing you through the park's experience. Like you want a park to be. Like, hey, everything flows, everything makes sense, everything's in the right place. The other thing is, other games, this isn't the only one that has tile laying, like spatial tile laying, earn points for stuff. And I've seen experiments in the past with this, lots of examples. For example, Quadropolis, where you're building your own city, or Coney Island, where you're building, you're kind of building your own carnival and stuff. And all of those have been pleasant, and they're, you know, I've enjoyed the spatial puzzle aspects. A little bit more generic, like I don't ever feel like I'm rearranging tiles to get the most points. This one, Dinosaur Park, really doesn't seem that much different, and yet somehow I feel much more engaged into, even though there's no constraints over where you put stuff in your park, you feel like you're building a park. You feel like you're creating dinosaur exhibits. Maybe it's because you know spectators are coming in Quadropolis. You don't send people through your city and see how many of them fall into the sewers. And such. But in this one, you are kind of going, how am I going to set this up? What tension points do I have? And I think part of that immersion is A, the threat level that you got to be mindful of, and B, the fact that, yeah, you know, if people are waiting in line to come in, can't come in because you didn't build enough spots here or there. Really balanced, really streamlined, and really kind of just those two little things make a big difference in how I feel involved and invested in creating my dino park. And so that's really cool. The tension of construction is basically it, and you know what drawbacks and pros and cons you're going to have for what you do and what choices you make, and where you're going to optimize and where you're going to maybe cheat a little bit or such. So as far as costs, you know, because it isn't just about cost; it's about risk. So it's not just how do I get enough money to get these cool bonuses, it's how much get the money to get these bonuses, but I also have this whole mitigation section, which other games do, but this does it really pronounced. In this one, if you don't mitigate your risk, meeples die. And they get eaten, and it's exciting. Come on, that's zany. Just awesome. And finally, I like the solo mode. I like that they're making a the general kind of move has been more towards automatas, and this one has a very simplistic automata, similar to Nations, which is another game that kind of uses the same thing, where instead of having to simulate AI opponents and get bogged down handling those, it just says, look at the results of what might have happened if other people had played the game, and remove this, and you're basically picking up as if some other players had played through, and now you're looking at the dregs of what's left and going, how do I make the most of this? That sounds boring, but it's not, because it's quick. You flip a card, you remove the stuff that other players might have procured before you, and then you just get to go play the rest of the game on your own and try to get points and try to earn achievements and objectives. And unlike some of the more static, I tend to not like puzzly solo games where you're just like, hey, just beat your high score. I know that that's a popular one where it's like, hey, just, you're playing the game, beat your high score, see if you can do better. I like games that make you feel like you played against some ethereal, virtual essence of entity of something and managed to do pretty well at it. And yes, there is scoring here, but that's not the part I focus on. I focus on building my park the best I can, and yeah, I'll get victory points in the end, but did I achieve these accomplishments, these objectives? Did I optimize well, etc. So I think the solo mode really shines in this one, and I'm very glad they included it in the way that they did. So that's basically it. I think you know by now that I'm a big fan of Dinosaur Island. It has rocketed to the top of my list of prehistoric games that I enjoy. I definitely enjoyed Escape from 100 Million BC. A totally different type of game, deals more with time travel and sort of adventuring than this one does. Raptor is more of almost a chess with Tyrannosaurus Rexes. Okay, raptors. And the other ones are all cutesy. Great Dinosaur Rush is more about, that's more whimsical. This one hits right. It is probably the godfather of games if you want to imagine being in Jurassic Park as a board game. I'm very excited for it. And I didn't get the deluxe edition, and it still has great components. You know, like side that has like sections set up and indented so that your cubes stay on where they're supposed to be and stuff. Great job on this. So this is definitely the high point of my playing experience thus far in 2018. I don't think this is going to drop down soon as far as my interest level. I'm very excited about it, and I definitely give it double thumbs up on this. Probably an 8.5 or a 9, because it really hits the sweet spot. The game delivers exactly the experience it intends to, and it does it vibrantly, and it does it logically, and it does it methodically, and it does it gracefully, and it does it entertainingly. It's a case, finally, where hype meets substance. The game is for real. So on that note, thank you, and we'll see you next time on Harebrained Games.